What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So there's an interesting poll that's out. I want to talk a little bit about it. This is for Tallarico. Tallarico is actually leading in this poll, and he's leading over Cornyn and Paxton. And you remember when I talked about this, when it comes to Cornyn and Paxton, some people are thinking, well, Paxton, Democrats are saying Paxton is a better choice when it comes to against Tallarico, because Tallarico has an advantage over Paxton because Paxton has more baggage. But Cornyn would be harder to beat because Cornyn's an incumbent. Well, the reality is, and I said this just last week, I think both Paxton and Cornyn, they have baggage. And Cornyn is struggling right now just to win a primary. Right now they're in a runoff with, Paxton and Cornyn are in a runoff. And so Cornyn has lost a lot of support amongst Republicans. And so that could be very dangerous in a general election. And so that's why I think when we're looking at Paxton and Cornyn versus Tallarico, I think Tallarico does have an advantage because Tallarico doesn't have some of this baggage. And Tallarico is a fresh face, and people are tired of Cornyn, and they're looking at Paxton. But like I said, Paxton has some baggage attached to him. Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to take a look at the polling. Now, the interesting thing about this polling is this polling was done in just one district. Okay, and this is Gonzalez's district. Now, Gonzalez is not running for re-election now. At least he's dropped out. And so they will have a different congressperson. But I want to show you this district because this is a plus 15 district for Trump. Okay, so in 2024, Trump won by 15 points. But when we start looking at some of the questioning here, you quickly find out that Tallarico is looking good in this district. And then it says here, if the candidates for U.S. Senate this fall were Democrats James Tallarico and Republican John Cornyn, who would you vote for? Tallarico at 48%, Cornyn at 42%, and then you have 10% that are not sure. Now, everyone knows, and this is another thing here, everyone in Texas knows who Cornyn is. Okay, so these people who are not sure, they know who Cornyn is, but they might be hesitant to vote for Cornyn. And some people, they don't know who Tallarico is, or they might be a little uncomfortable with voting for Tallarico or voting for a Democrat. So that could play a role there. But we're looking at 48%. So 48% for Tallarico and 42% for the incumbent senator. That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers there. So same thing here. So James Tallarico against Ken Paxton. We're looking at Tallarico at 49%. Ken Paxton at 44%. And so that first spread that we were looking at is +6 for Tallarico, and then Paxton, it's +5. So Tallarico still has an advantage over both of these candidates, according to this polling, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, public policy polling. That's what we're looking at. Now, I want to take a look at some of the other questions because it'll give you an idea of how this district, does it lean Democrat, does it lean Republican? And so let's take a look. I already told you that they voted for President Trump by +15, but what I want to do now is I want to take a look at how they're feeling right now. Okay, so it says, if the election for Congress were held today, would you vote for the Democratic or the Republican candidate from your district? Okay, so now they're talking about representatives. So for your district, Democrats, 45%, Republican, 47%, and then 8% not sure. So you see Republicans have an edge here in this district. Okay, looking at some of the other questions, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Katie Padilla? Okay, so when we're looking at the individual candidates, favorable 21%, unfavorable 17%, not sure 61%. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Herrera? So Herrera is the Republican that's running, favorable 29%, unfavorable 35%, not sure 36%. And so you see they ask some of those questions. I want to get to, there were a couple other questions about President Trump, and that's what I really want to focus on. So you have questions here. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Donald Trump? 45% favorable, 52% unfavorable, 3% not sure. So this, it doesn't really align with what we're seeing. We're seeing the job approval right now of the president at about 42, 43%. So it's a little bit higher than that. But, it's pretty close. I guess you could say it's pretty close to what we're seeing nationwide. looking at this question here. Regardless of how you feel about him personally, they're talking about Donald Trump. Do you approve or disapprove of President Donald Trump's job performance? 47% approve, 50% disapprove. So this is a little bit higher. And 4% are not sure. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling the economy? 44% approve, 51% disapprove, and then 6% not sure. Now, this number nationally is it's a lot different. Disapproval is close to 60%. This just shows you in this district, when it comes to the economy, they're not really blaming Trump as much as nationwide people are blaming Trump. And then we'll do one more here. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling inflation and affordability? 41% approval, 53% disapproval, 6% not sure. This is another category that would be much higher nationally. But when we're looking at the fact that in 2024, this was a plus 15 district for Donald Trump, and now we're looking at this polling, and it's showing Tallarico's a plus 6 against Cornyn and a plus 5 against Paxton. That's a real problem for Republicans, because if President Trump was able to get a plus 15 and now Tallarico, a Democrat, is plus 6, that's a 21 point shift there. So 21 points for Cornyn, and then a 20-point shift when we're looking at Paxton. And so that shows you what voters in this district, and when we're looking at Texas as a whole, it's showing you the shift. People are now, they're not happy with the president, and they're looking for another way. They're looking for Democrats, or looking for at least Tallarico to win in Texas. And so we're going to keep watching these different polls, and I'll keep putting them out to you guys. But when it comes down to it, the latest polling is showing Tallarico either neck and neck or ahead of both Cornyn and Paxton. Okay, now the last portion of the videos, all my videos, I do this. I take a look at the Senate map, and it's important because it gives us kind of an idea of what's going on. So when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, what do Democrats need to do to take back control of the Senate? And why are we talking about Texas? Why are we talking about Tallarico? So the main reason that we're talking about Texas is because right now, Democrats and independents are at 47, Republicans are at 53. In order for Democrats to take control of the Senate, they need 51 seats. And so that means that they're probably going to need to win Texas. And so if we're looking at this map, North Carolina, Maine, and Alaska are seats that Democrats have a real possibility of flipping. And so, and I mean, when I say a real possibility, I mean, we're looking at North Carolina, it's pretty much, we're looking at Roy Cooper as the next senator. And when we're looking at Maine, we know that Susan Collins is struggling right now. And so we'll have to see, and looking at the latest polling, we're seeing Plattner ahead. We're seeing Mills neck and neck. And so that could be a flip for Democrats. And then when we look at Alaska, you have Peltola, who I think has a really good shot of beating Sullivan. And so we'll have to see how that turns out. But let's just say these three states went to Democrats. Now we would be at a 50-50 Senate. So Democrats at 50, Republicans at 50. Republicans still maintain control because the vice president's a Republican. Vice president breaks the tie. But now we need one more state, and that is where Texas comes in, because we're looking at either a Texas or an Ohio. You have Sherrod Brown in Ohio, who in the latest polling, Sherrod Brown is ahead. Sherrod Brown could win in Ohio. But Tallarico is now ahead in Texas, or at least in some of the polling. And so if we did see a situation where Tallarico was able to pull it out and win in Texas, then we would be seeing Democrats at 51, Republicans at 49. Democrats would take back control of the Senate. Now, we can go even a step further. Let's say Texas flips. We could also see Ohio flip. And I've had some people say, well, John Fetterman is, he's basically a Republican, so the Democrats need to win even more than 51 seats. Well, they still have a route to win more than 51 seats. They can win in Ohio. They can win in Iowa. There's some other states that are out there. Even Montana, we don't know what's going to go on. You have independent there that could win. Nebraska, you have an independent that could win. And so we could see Democrats really change the Senate map and independents change the Senate map. So just because I always go up to 51, but just because we get up to 51 doesn't mean you can't go over the top, go over 51. So Democrats could be looking at 52, and you could have a couple of independents win as well, pushing the numbers up even higher if they choose to caucus with Democrats. And so that is where we are right now. And I showed you just a couple of days ago, the prediction markets are even showing that it's like a 50-50 chance of Democrats taking back control of the Senate, which is something that it would have been unheard of just 3 months ago, because we didn't see all of this. We didn't know Peltola was running. We didn't see that Tallarico would be the nominee on the Democratic side running against Cornyn or Paxton. And so there are a lot of different changes that we're seeing. Montana, we didn't know that that would be an open seat now. So that's, all of this stuff matters. And so we're just going to have to follow it and see where it goes. I want to know what you guys think about all this, so let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.